Hello and welcome to Creatives Flow with a VO. Tim D'Adamo here once again, your curious voiceover actor, digging into the gray matter of the creative directors who make commercials, TV promotion, TV animation, TV narration, and people who just make stuff, period. Well, as promised at the end of my interview with the folks from Source Elements, we are going to the dogs and cats and, well, everybody that Purina feeds, because today I get to interview an incredible lady, the creative director for the in-house advertising agency of Purina. So without me barking out anymore, let me please introduce a very dear friend of mine, Miss Melinda Barni. Hey, Melinda, thanks for leaving all the pets behind and coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope it's,
It'll be fun.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. And if it's not like up to snuff or not exciting enough, feel free to cut it down, cut it out. My feelings aren't going to be hurt at all.
Well, here's the thing. I think people, especially actors and other creative people that are just getting in, if you're a junior copywriter or a junior producer, or this is really interesting to them. They're like, I learned so much from your last guest, because we've, and so did the actors. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea this is what they went through when they had to create stuff.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Because I always give them the empathy rule. When I teach them the empathy rule, because you have no idea, those three people that are staring at you through the glass, the crap they had to go through from the point they had conceptualized the idea to the point you walked in that room. They had it meeting to death, lawyered to death. What they're selling, or they're probably banging their head against the desk saying, yeah, this is the spot now. The spot we came up with was so much better, but
yeah, it's 30% there, right?
Yeah, right.
That does happen.
So that's why I say, it's the empathy. And they said, I had no idea that's what it was like on your end.
Well, that's insightful of you. And it's funny, I grew up in traditional ad agencies, right? I came up through, I started as low as you could get on the totem pole. And along the way had other writers, who were so kind enough to mentor me and kind of show me the ropes. And I loved how direct they were about it. But so one of the first things I learned too, because you start out as a copywriter, you don't know how to direct voice talent. This is not something you innately understand. And so I went, I'd kind of go with some senior writers who, as they were for directing voice talent, you pick up things, you ask questions. And the thing that I took away from that learning was, look, these guys are experts. They're professionals. This is what they do. So what I said, they told me not to do was, so don't get in there and be like, hey, here's the spot. So I want you to say this just like this. They're like, don't parrot lines to them. Like that's kind of insulting. Is at least how it was presented to me. It's like, let them, you need to tell them what you want, and then you need to help them get there. And so,
right.
So It goes both ways.
Emotionally, all that stuff.
Yes.
A lot of times that's why I ask you guys to either play me the spot or play me your music, because it gets me in a place. And if I need it, I will ask for you to pair it. Because sometimes you have a tagline or you have a specific line in your head exactly as you need it to be. Not just want it to be, but you need it to be. Maybe because the client said they wanted it to be that way or that punched. So I'll ask for it to be parroted, So yeah, it's all, I call it a soup. It's a soup. We're all ingredients in a big pot of soup. And for the soup to be really good, we all have to commingle together and work as a team, and that's really all it is.
Yeah, it is.
At least to me,
it's true. And everybody's got their part, and everybody, brings it, and then you mix it all together. That's what makes magic.
Right. Exactly. So, one of the things I like to do is ask you, where are you from? Are you from St. Louis originally, or no?
I'm not. I grew up in Fulton, Missouri, which is a little town about 2 hours west of here.
Okay.
About 10,000. But for a small town, we had 2 colleges. So that's unusual, but that's why I grew up there. My dad was a professor.
Wow.
Yeah, there was an all-girls school and an all-boys school, colleges. He taught geography, So it pained him to no end that I still couldn't tell you which way west was right now as I'm sitting in my house. Geography. so, so he taught geography, he taught geology, earth science, history.
Wow.
And then on Wednesday nights, which when I was much older found out was the precursor to everyone going out and partying, he taught a co-ed sex ed class.
Of course.
So, yeah.
You were never invited, of course.
No, but he was very open, age appropriately. So, so that was interesting too.
Wow. That had to be tough to grow up around, man.
You know, it was, I don't know. It was, my friends were fascinated. You know, that was to see books lying around about, that were.
Yeah, especially if he was their teacher.
Yeah, there were some things we just didn't talk about.
Yeah, right.
My friends
Exactly.
and I.
Especially not in front of Dad.
Yeah, so I grew up in Fulton and graduated from the journalism school at the University of Missouri. They had a major in advertising, and I was in love.
So you started wanting to be a journalist then?
You know, I knew I wanted to be a writer of some sort, but I really didn't know what. And so, I took a couple classes in the news ed sequence, which is more straightforward journalism. And it was interesting, learned some great lessons, but just wasn't really loving it. When I got into the advertising core courses, that's when it really, like I said, I was hooked. And my
light bulb moment.
Yeah, and one of my favorite professors was he was a copywriter at Young and Rubicam back in the heyday, right?
Sure.
In the 50s and 60s. And he was fantastic.
Mad Men days.
Mad Men days, right. The stories he had and the experience he had, just, you really were learning from people who lived it versus just from an academic standpoint. One of my textbooks was, Hey, Whipple, squeeze this.
Sure.
I
remember that.
Which was fantastic. And I learned a lot from him and learned a lot while I was there. And I used to worry, I think most creatives do, really, whether they admit it or not. I think they worry a little bit that, like, gosh, am I really good enough to do this? Am I talented enough? You can look to your left and look to your right and find 5 people who you think are better than you and smarter than you. And but it kind of comes down to if it's something you want bad enough and you're willing to work hard enough for it, you can hone those skills, even if they don't come completely naturally to you. And
Sure.
So that was something when I was leaving, when I was graduating and talking with Henry, my professor, he said, he's like, why I don't worry about you? He said, you've got a lot of heart. And he said, you need that if you're going to survive in this business.
And you do, Melinda.
And the best piece of advice he gave me was, get your foot in the door. He said, if you have to take the worst, crappiest job at the agency, get your foot in the door. Because he said, you'll learn and keep your eyes open and your ears open and you'll learn a lot and, you'll move up. And so my very first job in an ad agency was, I took a job as the receptionist because that's what was open. And it was way better than what I was doing right out of school, which is selling shoes in a very snooty department store. So that was ridiculous.
Talk about learning how to sell stuff.
Oh, yeah. And how not to sell stuff. Because, so I'm 21, 22 at this point, 0 experience. And I was trying to sell a lady a pair of shoes. This is like 1992 or whatever. So these Laura Ashley print jumpers with big high waists and kind of flowy fabric were very popular. And so she was there and I was, getting her shoes and just trying to make chit chat. And I said, oh, when are you due? She's like, oh, I'm not pregnant.
Oh, boy. Oh. Yeah.
You make that mistake once in your life.
And I made it once too.
Was very gracious.
Thank God the woman is still one of my best friends.
right? I mean, she bought the shoes, but anyway, so agency receptionist seemed like a huge step up from that. So the when I went to interview, the owner's like, "Well, I have something." Oh, he's like, "I have something open, but I can't possibly offer it to you." He's like, "You graduated from J school. You've got a degree in advertising. Your book is good." He's like, I said, "What is it?" And he said, "Well, our receptionist is leaving." And I'm like, "I'll take it."
Good for you.
So he said, "We'll move you into a copywriting job, as soon as one becomes available." I'm like, "Fine." So luckily that panned out.
Mm-hmm. There's a dear gal pal of mine who was with Foot Cone and Belding when I first started voiceover. I used to actually go in to sell to people. I mean, I used to bring my stuff to each agency and plunk it down. I was one of the only people who ever did that. Well, she was you. She was the receptionist. When she retired, she was the vice president of production. And, she still blogs a lot and writes on Facebook a lot. And I think she still freelances every once in a while. But, she's a beautiful lady. But I mean, she started when I met her. She was always like, "Hey, Tim DeDabble, how are you? Who do you need to see today?" And she would always bring me back to him and sit me in their office. And eventually, like I said, she became an assistant producer, then a producer, then executive. She left as vice president of production. So she was you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what exactly is your gig and your duties, so people listening know?
Oh, I am a group creative director at an in-house ad agency for Nestle Purina Pet Care, and I'm a writer. So what that means is I'm partnered up with an art director and GCD art director, and we manage a team. And in-house agencies are set up pretty much like a traditional agency. We have art director writer pairs, and we work with account people as well, and we are teamed up on brands.
Okay.
So we have a set of brands in our group, and that's what we work on. And so as a group creative director, my job is I really think my biggest job is to help our team succeed, to find opportunities for them to shine and to help them succeed.
Sure.
Everybody gets there differently. Everybody works differently. And it's definitely one of my favorite parts of my job is, and our team now is very seasoned and very smart. And I admire, the writers on my team, the art directors on my team. It was surprising to me a little bit because, again, 10 years ago when I started, there's a little bit of a question mark about in-house agencies and, have you just kind of given up? And
they wanted more control.
I was pleasantly surprised to find, I feel like it's one of the best kept secrets in advertising, at least in St. Louis. And the depth of talent there, the level of talent there is inspiring and great. I mean, I feel really lucky to be a part of it. So yeah, it's guiding. It's creative strategy, we're working creative directors, so we still have projects, and I really like that balance too because you don't lose
right.
touch.
And I know you guys are always super busy.
Yeah, we're very busy. But
do you feel like they let the reins out for you a little bit too? I mean, some of the stuff you see from the big agencies, they seem to really, some of the clients really allow them to play. They do some crazy stuff. Whereas your message is very straightforward. At least the stuff that I've done for you has been very straightforward. Do they every once in a while say, "You know what, let's have a little fun with this one"?
Definitely. It depends on the brands that you're working on, and it depends on the project, and it depends on what the piece needs to accomplish and who you're talking to.
Okay.
All those things, right?
Right. Right.
When I worked at, like I said, a traditional agency where I had other clients, I had a theme park client for a while. That was fun. I worked on SeaWorld and I worked on Busch Gardens. And so that's, again, completely different. Fun, inherently fun, right? By nature. And
sure.
And about entertainment and about making people want to have those experiences. So that's definitely different than what
Right.
I'm doing now. And, I like them both equally. I used to worry too that I might get bored, being in house and writing about what I thought would be the same thing all the time. And that's just not the case.
Good.
Before I would work on SeaWorld, but then I've worked on Intel, and I worked on eye drops, and I've worked on CPG, Duncan Hines, and um, Blue Cross Blue Shield, healthcare. I kind of have done
Right.
a little bit of everything, and I really love the range too. It just keeps things exciting and different, and keeps you on your
Sure.
toes. I've learned a lot about a lot of things, and you have to. You can't fake your way into writing about something.
Well, especially, I'm sure you've learned a lot about cats and dogs.
I learned a lot about cats and dogs, for sure.
I mean, are you an animal lover?
I am. I always have been. We had guinea pigs, cats, dogs, always growing up. And then my dad had a farm for a little while, and just for fun though.
Wow.
Wasn't like a working farm. So there were like
Mm-hmm.
pygmy goats and pot-bellied pigs and horses on it, and chickens, and
Yeah, it's a lot of fun,
it
man.
is kind of
That's a
fun.
lot of fun.
So yeah, I do. I have two cats now, which anybody who's ever been on a Zoom call with me knows intimately, because they just won't stay out of my business.
I haven't seen them now. Where are they?
Right. So I'm sure they'll make an appearance. But yeah, I'm totally got us off track. What were we talking about?
No, we were talking about, what your gig
yeah.
was, and,
Did I really
and how
say?
you got to where you were. And yeah, you did. I mean, was there something else you wanted to do before you got into advertising, or did you have a lightning bolt moment or an epiphany moment? Was there another plan? I mean, journalism sounded like what you were gonna do.
Actually, I started off at a small liberal arts college that had an English writing degree. I didn't really know what that was, but I was intrigued by it. So I started off there. And after a couple of years of way too many lit classes on Norton anthologies, which were, the thickness of the Gutenberg
The Gutenberg Bible. The
Bible, thank you, and written on fly paper in like 6-point type, I was starting to think, what am I going to do with this? And so when I was home on break, I applied to the J school and didn't really think I had a shot at getting in, and found out at the end of my sophomore year that I did. So that's where it all started. And I always loved like Bewitched. Do you
Me
remember
too.
Bewitched?
I sure do.
Yeah, sure. Old school
I
stuff.
got to see her. I got to see their house.
You
once,
did?
actually. Yeah, when I was doing Speedy Gonzales, they said that's the Stevens residence across the street from us. So it was the Samantha's house across the street
So
on the Warner's lot. That was
that's
pretty cool.
crazy.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of that. I can always remember, I grew up in the 70s, like as a kid, really, early 80s.
Both of us did. Yeah.
Era of the jingle, right?
Right.
Which I can
Right.
always remember and always liked. But no, this is when I got there, this is what I always want. Advertising is what I wanted to do, and it's what I still love today. And I think after 25 plus years, not a whole lot of people can say that.
I know, and isn't that something? And I think the scales fall from your eyes. Of course, by now I thought I'd be a retired rock singer with my own harem, because I used to be young and cute, and I used to have hair down to here, and I was the lead singer in a band. And so that was how I got into this silly little business.
Yeah, I was going to look too. Yeah.
Other questions? What do we got here? What? Oh yeah. You said you have cats. That was my next question. But where do you find your inspiration? Meaning, how and where does creativity come to you? Do you find things outside of work sometimes help your ideas inside of work? I mean, for me, my best ideas often come to me when I'm riding my mountain bike through the woods.
Yeah.
Brilliant. This idea came to me riding my mountain bike. A podcast.
Really, sometimes I think it's just like divine intervention, because there are times when you can really be working hard to get something and it just doesn't come. And for me, what works is step away, go do something else, whether it's gardening, so many ideas have come to me in the shower.
Sure.
That's usually
Sure.
when it happens, but it's just you are so steeped in the consumer insights and all the business side of things and what you're trying to achieve and what your consumer really needs, and all this stuff, and sometimes it just jumbles around in there for a while. So you really do need to kind
Right.
of just, for me anyway, take a step back, go do something else, and that's usually when it kind of starts to solidify. When I'm cooking dinner, I like to cook, have a little wine, have a little music on. I just have a notebook in there all the time. I have a notebook by my bed all the time.
I've
You
heard that a
know,
lot. I hear a lot of
some
creatives do that.
because it's rarely a fully baked thing, but sometimes, a lot of times, there's a nugget in there. And
Right.
that's the other thing I love about, working with a partner. You go in the next day, you can take this little baby idea and it's like, hey, I had this thing, I thought about this last night. It's just kind of a half baked, but you can, she's like, oh yeah. So then you can start,
Fleshing it
challenging it,
out. Right.
building it on
Right.
it,
An artist can
tear it
always flesh
down,
stuff
build it
out,
up,
you know?
see if it's really something. Can you make it a fully formed thing? And that's really what I still love, is just that creative, collaborative process
Sure.
together. And you're right about ideas. You you have to fight for them.
Yeah.
They start, and getting the idea is definitely the most important part, because without it, you have nothing. But it's just the beginning.
Sure.
You have the idea, then you have to build to expressing the idea, however it needs to come to life. You get into the execution. You've got to execute this idea flawlessly. Still not done. And this is something I've really grown to understand and also really enjoy, is then you've got to go sell that idea in. And
To
by
the
sell
client.
that
Right.
to the client. And by sell that idea, well, usually you have to sell it internally first.
Well, because you're an internal agency, I would think that's a little more closely guarded then.
Well, even, we even have to get our account people on board. We're all a team, and a great thing about our account team too is, they will go in and fight for our work as hard as we do,
Sure.
which is a beautiful thing. So once you have to present it, and when I say sell an idea, and like I said, I don't mean cram it down their throat, but I mean you have to make them understand why this is it,
Yeah.
why this is right, why this is going to achieve your objective, reach your client, resonate with your audience, and hopefully be memorable and make people take action.
Absolutely.
And it's the presentation part that I've definitely gotten better at, but really enjoy. While I've been here, they also have lots of great opportunities for you to keep growing and keep learning. And I took a Carnegie Mellon presentation class that was over the course of several days, videotaped you presenting, which is mortifying. I don't care how many times you've done it.
Sure.
You don't want to see yourself on tape, but of course it was very enlightening.
And no creative wants to see themselves fail, ever. But fail is what
Right.
builds,
It's true. It's true. And you learn from that and you get better, or you get out of the business.
Yeah. And something you
So-
said before, Melinda, it's true on both sides. We call it the glass because I'm a voice actor and you're on the other side of that glass. You feel like, am I good enough? Am I good? Am I really good enough to do this? And well, first it was fake it till you make it. And then you got cocky as hell. And then you start to say, how can I get better at this? So it's not, am I good enough? It's how can I even be better? And I think that
Yes.
happens to both of us, both the
Absolutely.
creatives and an actor,
Yes, absolutely. I have certainly worked with my share of egos in my career. It's just not part of who I am. I mean, there's a difference between the ego and confidence,
Sure. Absolutely.
right? I'm not naive enough to think that I'm the only person who can possibly have a good idea, or
Right.
who it's got to be my way or no way. Good ideas can come from everywhere. I invite and enjoy different perspectives within the agency, but when I'm working with voice talent, what makes you choose a voice talent? And I would imagine most writers have this. When you are writing a script, like you said, you've been working with this idea for so long already. You hear this voice in your head
Mm-hmm.
before you ever hear an audition, before you ever find out who could possibly bring this to life in the way that you think.
You envisioned.
That
Yeah.
you hear it in your head. So most of the times when you're, you're doing the casting, you're listening for that audition who you kind of heard in your head all along. But what has also happened is I've heard that voice and then I've heard a completely different take that I never heard. And sometimes it's like, oh, wait, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. You mean
so
from another actor or from the same actor?
From another actor.
Okay, gotcha.
From another actor who you, like I said, they have a completely different take on it. And it wasn't my take, but wow, that's really interesting and sometimes even better. And so again, I think it's just, you've got to stay open to leaving things pliable to a degree.
Sure.
Because you never know, somebody can take what you did and make it that much better. And that's what I really love from any collaborator, from a partner, an art director partner, to a voice actor, to a director. You want them to bring that their own special sauce.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and I've said it on another podcast. I'll say it again. I was working, when I first got in the business, there was a woman who was a producer who became an actress. And she said, I got to tell you, being on both sides of the glass, you either got the gig or you didn't, because. She said, the minute you hit the X and you said, hi, I'm such as, they were like, okay, she's the one. That's exactly what I saw in my mind. Or the minute you open your mouth on mic, hi, this is Tim Didabo. They were like, okay, I like his slate already. And then you go on and do your thing.
It can happen that fast.
There's always that surprise. And as a creative, I know you have to be ready for that surprise. And I'm hoping if I get 2 takes that I'm the surprise, because I almost never do the same thing twice. I'm not going to give you 2 takes of the same thing. I'm going to either bring my energy up, or I'm going to change my voice completely, or I'm going to stop in a place that's just not normal. The other thing that people say, especially coaches, voice coaches say, screw the commas. Just, do it the way you would say it if you were having a conversation,
Yes. Yeah. That's, that if there is anything I would tell voice talent is, every time, if you're allowed, do 2 reads, do a second read, because I'm not kidding. There have been times when I've heard the first take, I'm like, and then I'll hear the second one. I'm like, oh.
God bless you for listening to both.
Well, it's
because some people don't get past the slate.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I have those moments too, but that's not typically how it works.
Mm-hmm.
As long as, if and those moments come when I've got 150 auditions for a 15-second spot.
Yeah.
For an announcer.
Right.
So, but typically I will listen, because sometimes you'll find that gold in a second read. And if you can bring a different interpretation to it, a different vibe to it, how your delivery, just like I said, can take you to a different place, whether it's the one you expected or the one you didn't.
Sure.
So that would be my advice, is always do 2 takes.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is changing how you are on the mic. It's mic trickery. It's body language. I might sit down on one take and put my leg off. I have a stool, a bar stool. So I'll take one leg off and I'll fold my arms, or I'll lean against the wall, and it's a totally different read. It's body language, it's mic trickery, and of course it's acting skills and experience. I can almost always tell it when someone is either a non-union talent or a brand new talent, because you can hear the nervousness in their voice. I mean, you can hear it on the spot. I'm just like, because you can hear they're really good, but they were nervous as hell.
Yes. And the other way I can usually tell if someone's new is if they just are reading.
Yeah.
They're reading the words in front of them, and they're not putting anything, they're not really feeling them, and they're not thinking about what their role is, and bringing these words to life. And so, I like to also include things like that in my casting notes, kind of like, your job is to blank. I need you to this. Mm-hmm. I want people to feel this. Yeah. Because again, the more you understand that, the better off we're going to be, right? The closer we're going to get and get there faster.
Right.
And it's going to be that much better.
And betterer.
I always do love to send, right? And I love to send the picture if we have it. A lot of times, VO is the last thing we do.
Right.
So if we have picture, if we have music, I'm with you there too. Anything that helps you kind of get the vibe.
is there a way that you get somebody back on track if they're kind of straying? I mean, they're the right person, they're the right woman, they're the right man. Is there a way that you have to gently nudge somebody back on track or to get them in the vibe you're looking for?
I mean, sure, that's happened. Well, it's happened. I think a lot of times we'll just take five. They need it, I need it, and then I can kind of regroup and figure out. And talking with the audio engineer too, right? It's like I want this, and we're not quite there. And so again, I'm a collaborator. I love that. This is what he does all day long.
Sure.
So I love also. A lot of times it's after a conversation there that we come back and can reset, and then we get there.
I know working for you one time, I think he had me change my mic. He said, they're looking for a warmer reed. Do you have a Neumann? And I was like, sure.
And I would never have known that. That's what I mean. I count on people to bring their expertise. I respect it. I want it.
There's so much mic trickery. I mean, when you get to learn the instrument, which is this thing right here, part of your practice, and I do practice, is working around the mic. All right. So then finally, you know what? Let's get to this. How long have we been on? Yeah.
All right.
What bit of advice do you have for a young actor or a young creative to find their own creative flow?
I think at first, there's a tendency to maybe try to mimic someone that you admire and look up to, and you look up and you love their work and you envy their work. And so you might try to do things more like they do. And most likely what you'll find is that doesn't work, because that's how that's their groove. But it doesn't mean it's yours. And I think that's, again, one of the things that you spend your early career doing is finding that for yourself. Now, I definitely also keep your ears open, keep your eyes open. So you're surrounded by smart people. I definitely have taken things away from all the smart people who I watched and learned under. And it's all those little pieces that start to assemble in a way that suddenly becomes your style. And it's not that you've, again, tried to emulate someone else, but you definitely take the best pieces and parts and learnings from the smart people around you and use them every day. I don't have a magic, like, philosophical answer to that.
That was pretty magical, honestly. Often these answers, Melinda, are the so much when the student is ready, the teacher appears moment for people. What you just said, a young creative or a young actor might listen to and say, okay, I was ready to hear that, and that's what I needed to hear right then and there. So, I mean, that's sometimes what you need to hear. Have you ever mentored anyone, or do you mentor, people that are coming into Purina?
Well, yes. I mean, definitely since I've been even a ACD, I had writers under me who I was working with, and yeah, you kind of take them under your wing, and some, like you said, are very cocky and don't want any part of it, and others are open, but everybody's different. And at the same time, they were learning, believe me, I was honing my teaching skills. You also have to let those people find their own flow. Like I said, everybody's kind of got their own style.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get better over time at finding what their kind of superpower is.
I love that.
And figuring out how to fan that flame and just let them, and just really let them come into their own and shine. And it doesn't have to be the same way you do it. It shouldn't be the same way you do it.
Right.
But I really do enjoy that. And like I said, it's really just about helping them succeed and finding opportunities for them to do that, and then supporting them while it happens. It's gratifying in a new way at this point in my career than just wishing I had a spot in the Super Bowl. I mean, come on, we all start there, right? We all start there and want shelves full of awards.
You have the Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl of dogs.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
And of course, I'm always geeked out when I see my spot appear on that show. Our spot. I'm sorry.
No. Don't be silly. Yeah, it's a whole different kind of fun. But there are two things about working here that I have grown to appreciate and I think are just kind of fascinating about this company in particular. One is the science behind dog food. People have no idea.
Of course not.
There are, and a lot of what I do is interviews. I'm usually on the other side of this mic, so this is uncomfortable for me. I'm usually asking the questions.
It's been wonderful.
Figuring out how to, bring out the story that I want to or that we need to tell. And a lot of times you're interviewing scientists and talk about out of their element.
Mm-hmm.
But they are brilliant.
Of course they are.
I'm working, I'm interviewing someone and it's like, his title is molecular biologist. He's a molecular nutritionist. He's just got a PhD in genomics. And it's mind blowing. These guys are brilliant and they come from, a lot of them, the human side of medicine as well and nutrition as well.
Do they work for Purina?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So the science of nutrition is fascinating. And I've learned so much about like human nutrition and biology through them, through this brilliant group of scientists that are assembled that make all the pet food. And it's amazing. And I had no idea. And nobody else has any idea either how involved it is.
Well, that's why I eat dog food. It's so much more nutritious.
We kind of joke like, I wish there was a dog food for people because everything you need to thrive would be in it. And it would be delicious.
There's vegetables in there. I could eat that. All right, now the last thing I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't send you these on purpose.
Okay.
This is lightning round questions.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Here
Here we go. This is number 1. What do you do when you're not working? Any other pet projects? Sorry, last pun, I promise. What do you do when you're not working? Do you have a hobby or anything? Mine is woodworking, as you know, and riding a mountain bike.
Hobbies. Well, my kids are teenagers now, so I do have a little more free time. I like to play tennis. But it's harder and harder to find people to play tennis with because everyone's playing pickleball.
That's my wife.
Which
She's killer.
Yeah.
She's a killer.
I started playing pickleball and it's pretty fun. I play with, a lot of times I'm the only girl on the court and
really? You need to come down here. I'm usually the only guy on the court.
Right. Just within this group, it's my husband and a bunch of his friends who are also my friends. But I like to play tennis. I like to play pickleball. When the weather's good, I like to garden. I like to cook. It's just, there are so many other avenues you can be creative in.
You bet.
I think that's also
especially gardening.
Healthy.
Really, gardening. You can be super creative with gardening.
Yeah, I don't have any crazy hobbies. I don't do anything dangerous. You won't find me on a side of a mountain anywhere.
I won't find you behind a table saw either. Okay.
No, definitely not. Not near anything sharp, aside from a kitchen knife.
There you go.
And even that's pushing it.
Mom's got a knife. Leave the room.
There's a reason I'm not an art director. I can't draw straight. I can't cut straight.
I love it. All right. If you weren't doing this, meaning advertising, what would you be doing?
Oh, gosh. There was a quick glimpse time in my life where I thought I might actually be a therapist or a counselor. And not really because it was something I sought out, but all my friends, people seem to come to me with kind of their problems. I don't know if I'm just easy to talk to or a good listener, but I was like, maybe I should do that. But
my second person to say this. It's very neat. That's very different. I mean, and it's funny because when you're a GCD, I think you do have to be a bit of a shrink, to wrangle the troops together, keep them sane, and to get the idea across to your client. You have to be a bit of a shrink to make that all happen.
Yeah, I think you have to be nimble for sure. And you have to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes and figure out, like you said, how to kind of bring everything together and everyone together. But that's one of my favorite challenges too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, 2 more and then we're done. Where do you see advertising, heck, all of our business in 5 years?
Boy, I feel like that is harder to answer today than maybe ever. I mean,
I
who could
know.
see, who could
It's
have
just
seen us
changing so
here,
fast.
right?
Yeah.
We used to, everything used to be around, I think, the TV spot, and less so. Our
Mm-hmm.
media dollars going there. So I think we're going to continue to be challenged to find people where they are, meet them there, get messages to them in new ways that resonate with them. This two-way sort of communication between consumers and businesses is not going anywhere. But
Right.
I don't think that's a bad thing, right? The more we know, the less we have to assume.
It's just where the messages are going to be.
I think it's.
I
I
think that's
agree.
going to be tougher
I
and
agree.
tougher.
I think it's the where you reach them and how you reach them, and people's dwindling attention spans continues to challenge that.
Well, especially to disruptive media.
For sure. What I hope doesn't change is, we're working in a hybrid situation right now. We're in the office some days, we're home some days. But what I hope doesn't change is that we still have the opportunity to gather and assemble, because there is nothing more fun, exciting, productive than being able to sit with my art director partner and work through an idea and see something happen. Like I said, that, a flower grow from that little seed of an idea. So I hope
Right.
that never changes.
And well, great story is always going to be told, and let's hope always going to be listened to. And great commercials are great stories.
That's exactly right.
You know?
It's all great stories. And so again, it's about how we tell those stories, that I think is going to change. That the thing that will never change is, you're right. There's nothing beats a good story.
Yeah. Yeah. And lastly, my dear, where do you see yourself? What will Melinda Barni be doing in 5 years?
I think I will still be working here for sure. I think I'm gonna have to. I don't need a second to think about this.
See, and this is why I don't send them, because now I get your brain working.
5 years. My gosh, my kids will be out of the house. Like my kids will be in college.
Maybe. Or that's when they'll be
Yeah.
coming back.
So my kids will be out of the house. I don't know. 5 years from now, I will still be working, and I'm sure, I expect I will still be enjoying it. But maybe I'll have time to add something else too, whether that's a mentorship in a different way. There are chances here to help teach English as a second language, or tutor writing, or I don't even know. But I'm hoping that by that time I can give a little bit more of myself in a different capacity, but using the skills that I have.
Yeah. 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 Cool for you. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I don't know, Tim.
That's fine. But see, now the brain is thinking, what the hell will I be doing in 5 years?
What else would be fun to add to your list of questions? I think, because it's one of the best things, and maybe a unique thing in advertising, is to ask people what their favorite war stories are, because there are just ridiculous things that happen, from when you're young and in your agency days, and it's who hooked up with who at the Christmas party and who ended up half naked on the stage, to
Well, now I want to ask you that question.
to when you're still at the office. So is most of your team. This was 15 years ago. Okay. So things were still done by hand and paper and assembled before. And then you took it all in a plane and got in a plane and went down and pitched it to your clients. So it's 2 a.m. Executive creative director finally comes in, looks at it. It's like, no, we're not doing this. Change that. We're killing this one. We're killing this one. So then it is a mad dash to make all these revisions again, which used to take much longer. And while some of them were happening, I had to go home and shower and get my presentation clothes on and go to the airport. And somebody else who was working on it up to the last second dropped everything, drove it to the airport, got it on the plane. We showed up and made our pitch, and they had no idea what had just transpired in the 6 hours before that.
Back to the empathy thing on our end, They had voiceovers, actors, the people that are behind camera or behind the mic have no idea that you guys go through that, and they have no idea that you were up the night before that session till 3 a.m. rewriting the script and getting approval from first your creative director, from the lawyers, it's just.
Yeah. But it's also part of the fun. You've got to have perseverance in order to survive in this game too, or you won't. And so that's a necessary skill, and it builds character, and it makes you smarter. And you've just got to really want it. I think to stay in advertising, I actually thought I'd be aged out of this business by the time I was 40, honestly. But again, if you want something bad enough and you work hard enough and you learn and you're lucky along the way too, to make great contacts and end up in better and better places, it's all worth it.
And you're just damn good at what you do.
All worth it.
Right. You're just good at what you do. That's part of what keeps you there. Look, nobody gets to stay on the ship if they're cargo that's no longer needed. It's true.
It's true. It is true. I've never been let go anywhere.
That's an amazing thing to say.
Part of it is knowing when to get out, which is how I landed here. The account I worked on that I was a creative director on was up for review. I would hazard a guess that about 0.1 of the accounts that are up for review actually retained by the agency who has them. So the writing was kind of on the wall, and somebody contacted me from another agency and said, hey, how's it going? I haven't talked to you for a while. I don't know if you're happy here, but we have something opening up. And I was like, because again, you just, listen, keep your eyes open, your ears open. You never know, right? You never know. And now I've been here for 10 years, and I am still growing and learning, and that's exciting too. That's the other thing. You've got to be curious, and you've got to dig in, and you want to problem solve, because that's how this really is. You're problem solving in a creative way and telling the story.
Right. And telling a story, and you're problem solving with stories.
Absolutely.
Yes. At the end of the day, we're selling stuff. We're selling pet food, but you have to touch the hearts of those that are buying the pet food, and you have to speak to their story.
It's so true. If you don't get them to feel anything, you can't get them to think what you want. You can't, or you can't get them to pay attention if you don't get them to feel.
Right.
Then you can think about action.
And the great thing about Purina is they wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't a great product. Oh
yeah.
There's no doubt that it is where it is because it works. It does what it says it's going to do, and it's an easy sell. That's an easy sell. Driven by a great story, it's an easy sell. Thank you so much, Melinda.
You're
it was
welcome.
So sweet to finally see your face.
Yeah, I know. It's like, wow, you have, again, talk about, you get a picture of what somebody's going to look like, but while hearing their voice, and it's so weird to finally actually really see you.
Yes, I know. That's why I hide behind a mic.
You're so tan.
Well, wait a minute. I'm not that tan. I just here. I am pretty tan, but all right, my dear. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone will get to understand what you do.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Okay. Happy to talk to you, Tim.
Well, everyone, that was Melinda Barni from the in-house advertising agency of Purina. I got to tell you, for me, her brilliance is only surpassed by her kindness. She's always been so fun to work with, and I had just as much fun actually getting to know her and see her for the very first time because we're in 2 different states. So thanks again, Melinda, and thank you guys for coming around. And by the way, if you ever want to reach out to me, you can certainly email me at timdadabo@gmail.com. That's timdadabo@gmail.com. On the next show, we're going to cross the pond, as it were. I'll be speaking with a friend of mine from London, England, about how he conceptualizes non-scripted television stuff that I did with him and his music. you won't want to miss Gareth. So until next time, everybody, thanks again. Remember, when you're not listening to a podcast, to find your flow.